Hey besties, it is Friday night once again, and it is time to get lit. That's right. We're going to be talking about literature. We're going to talk about specifically the 4 books that I've read recently, and we're also going to make a drink. I used to say that I make mocktails, and I just kind of at this point make whatever I want to make. But tonight we are making homemade ginger ale, which was a recipe recommended to me by Miss Brittany. I'll link the recipe, the website down below. I think it's Lloyd's Sweet Treats. You'll see it, okay? If you want to go follow the recipe from start to finish, you'll see it there. What I did off camera was the ginger syrup, because this has to boil and then it has to steep overnight. So this right here is the ginger syrup. And so according to the recipe, you just chop up the fresh ginger, put it in the pot with some sugar and some water, let it come to a boil, and then you let it cool and steep overnight, which it is done. It's actually really cold, which is nice. And then you pour it into a container. I strained it into the container so that the chunks of the ginger would not be part of the drink. From here, we need to juice a bunch of limes and make a lime juice thingy with fresh mint sprigs. It's a very involved recipe, but ginger ale is my favorite thing. So while we go on to the next step, let me tell you the books that we're going to talk about tonight. So our first book is The Dragon Wakes with Thunder. This was the second book in a duology. I don't know why I thought about that for so long. It's the second book in a duology. So we've already talked about the first book. Then we have to talk about A Killer Kind of Romance. I think that's the title of it. The third book that we have, and I'm not sure that this is going to be enough lime. It said 8 to 10 limes should get you a cup of lime juice. Methinks that her math is off. What kind of limes were they using that 8 to 10 limes got a cup of lime juice? And I should have questioned that before we started this process. But this is more like half a cup of lime juice. Sus. You would think, being the lime connoisseur that I am, I would have known this ahead of time. You know what? I bet I have just lime juice somewhere. Yeah, that's like half a cup of lime juice. So, I mean, now I'm supposed to take the mint and we are supposed to muddle it into the lime juice before we add the lime juice to that. Aren't you supposed to like smack your mint or something to activate it? Is that real? But maybe you don't have to do that if you're muddling it. The third book we have to talk about is Witch Queen Rising. This smells really good. I'm going to assume that's muddled enough. I'm going to add this to our ginger syrup, but like, it's just like, it's not, hold on. I'm going to make some more lime juice with whatever ingredients I have around the house. It's not going to be fresh squeezed lime, but it'll do. I'm going to do that because this ain't enough. Hold on. Okay, real talk. The best I could do was to have these just lime packets, and I made lime juice out of it. All that is crystallized lime, so it counts, right? And so the last book that we have to talk about is The Maker of Swans. Maybe we should stir it up though, huh? Well, we can't stir it with that, can we? So let's give that a stir. And to finish this drink off, I'm going to fill this with ice. I have a little bit of mint as a decoration. So the instructions say to add club soda to this. I like my drinks really fizzy, and so I'm not going to add it to this because I don't want that to go flat in the refrigerator, but I'm going to add club soda just to my cup. I have a bunch of bottles of like individual sized club soda. So that's what I'm going to do. So that way everybody can fizz their own drinks. You could also use like your, we have the soda stream. You could also use like a soda stream to make your own fizzy water. It just won't have like the minerals that are in club soda. But I mean, I don't know if you need all that. It's going to be fine, right? Okay. On the website, she recommends 2 parts club soda to 1 part ginger syrup. We're just going to eyeball it. So I've got my ice in my cup, and I'll just say, if you are a nugget ice girly, the trick is to fill it completely because there's so many air pockets in here. Once you pour liquid in, it's going to be a reasonable amount of ice. So don't look at this and think I'm crazy. But anyway, let's just go in with some club soda about to there. And then we'll put some of this in, some of our ginger syrup, which smells divine, by the way. Okay, that is mostly full. I'm just going to top it with a little bit more club soda. And let's get a little mint leaf Okay, so something like that. It smells really good, so I'm excited to try it. I think I told you about all the books. I don't actually remember because I got really lost in the sauce of making this drink. I love ginger ale, so I'm ready to go. So let's head over to the chair and we will talk about the books. Yeah? Okay. Cheers. Okay, you guys. It is time to try our homemade ginger ale. Listen, I'm a ginger ale queen, okay? So keep that in mind. She's good. That's good stuff. I did bring the rest of my club soda over just because I'm also a fizz queen and I didn't feel like it was fizzy enough. Now, I might be messing up the proportions here, but just want a little more, a little extra bubbles. You know what I mean? Okay, it's so good. Okay, highly recommend this. Okay, so we have books to talk about. If this is your first time at Friday Night Lit, just an FYI, there will be heavy plot discussion of the books. I try to avoid real spoilers, but we're gonna get into it if we need to get into it. I think this episode might not be that heavy just based on the books that I have, but it's just a warning that I like to give. So if there's a particular book you don't want to know any specifics about it, there will be timestamps down below. You can just skip right on past that one on to the next book, okay? So let's get into it. Let's start with Witch Queen Rising, which I read on my Kindle. This was an arc that I read, and let me think, because I read this so many books ago. The basis of this story is we have this woman, Josephine. They're sisters in this book. One of them is named Josephine. The other one is named Seraphine. And I'd be lying if I told you which one was the main character and which one was the sister on the side. But for the sake of the video, let's say Josephine is our main character. I hope that's right. Good Lord. There is this woman, Josephine, and she grew up down in the bayou in New Orleans, and she's part of a coven of witches, and she runs away from home. She leaves home and goes out to be a wanderer when she is quite young. I don't know, like 19, 20-ish. And at the start of the story, essentially what happens is her mother was what do you call it? The Grand Witch of the Coven. What's that called? I think I need coffee, you guys. Oh, in the book, they call him the Prime. So her mother is the Prime, and her mother dies, and then she gets picked up by this man and brought back to New Orleans because she has been selected as the next Prime. Now, it is not a filial situation with the primacy. It usually bounces between covens, like between witch houses. And so she definitely should not have been selected as the Prime. That's very strange, okay? And that is quite central to the story. So he brings her back to New Orleans and everything is tense. Like the reasons why she left New Orleans, the reasons why she had her magic bound, why she was on the run for a number of years, all of that stuff starts coming out as we go through the story. There are a number of things that happen, and essentially all of the strife and controversy comes from the fact that she should never have been selected as the Prime. Like I said, this is not passed down from mother to daughter. It should bounce between the covens. And for whatever reason, it does not. Now, when it is with her coven, it is always her family who holds the primacy, but it should not have been with her coven in her generation. So a lot of people are angry that she has been selected as the Prime, even though primacy is selected by like the ancestors. It's like a thing that just happens to you. It's not like we have a council and we vote on it. Okay. It's a thing that happens to you. You don't have any control over it. But people are pissed that she got selected. And so there are the werewolves, there are the vampires, there are it's a Gaelic word and I can't say it, but the best I can say it in English is the she. They all kind of like live together in New Orleans and they all kind of like coexist. And the heads of each of these groups of people are groups of supernatural beings. Josephine is mixed up in various ways with a werewolf, with a vampire. She gets into a situation with like the vampire queen. On and on we go. So here's what I like about this book. I like that this book had the interplay between the different species of supernatural characters. If you don't know anything about me, you should know that the show Supernatural was my jam. I watched it from the beginning all the way to like 17 decades later when Jensen and Jared were hobbling on canes trying to film this show. I watched every single episode of that show. I loved every single minute of it, even when it got really goofy. I loved it. I love it. Okay. I just really love the way that what's the author's name? Savannah Stevens. I love the way that she brought these different species, like the interplay between them, to life. I thought it was really well done. I also liked Josephine's backstory because I thought it was a good origin story. There was a lot of tragedy in her backstory, and I thought it was done well. What I did not appreciate is that I don't feel like we ever got to the bottom of anything in Josephine's story. It felt very much unfinished. And I don't know, is this a standalone? Because if it's not a standalone, I have so many questions. Okay, it's a duology. So I am assuming that book 2 will answer the questions that I have, because I just feel like we didn't get to the bottom of some things and I need to know more, okay? So the other thing that I really, really liked about this is everybody in this book is Black. Okay, we're in New Orleans. This is written by a Black author. It is about Black people. There's a lot of Black culture that's represented in it. And honestly, more of that, please. Yes, absolutely, 100%. I actually finished reading this book the morning that I went to my first Black Girls Who Read book club meeting. And so I was like, pumped. I was hyped. And so I really love that about the book. Now, there were a couple of things that just simply didn't work for me, but they didn't actually ruin the story. I just kind of was like, really? One of those things is, I'm like, how much do I want to say about this without we are doing heavy plot discussion, but I'm trying not to spoil it, was the way we had multiple storylines that just were kind of forgotten. We would be in the middle of talking about something, then we get to another chapter and we start talking about something else. And I'm like, surely we're going to go back and finish talking about that. So for instance, there's a part where she's kind of reliving the past with this guy who she was with before she skipped town. And he's basically railing into her, I didn't know what happened to you. I didn't know if you were dead. I don't know if you were what happened. And then we get to the next chapter and you feel this build up, the tension of their conversation. We get to the next chapter and we move on to something else, which that happens a lot in books and that's totally fine. But we never came back to that. So it's just a thing that happened. And then that was it. Bestie, what happened? Tell me, what did she yell back at him? Did she have a good reason? Did he accept her reason? What happened? There were a couple of different things, storylines that happened like that. And we just kind of forgot about it. There's also a good amount of representation of all sorts of things in there. We have disability, we have LGBTQ representation in the book. So all sorts of things are represented in the book. And my hat's off to the author for that. Now, vibes wise, the vibes were super high. I want to give the vibes on this one a 5, yo. I mean, I was vibing the whole way through and I loved it. And so cheers to that. This was such a good one. It released, I want to say April 28th, that maybe it was the 23rd. Either way, it's out now. You can go pick it up. I am struggling with my words today. It's been a long day. Let me put my cup down. And let's move on to the next book. I don't know that I really said a lot of words about that previous book, but we're just going to move on. The next book I have is The Dragon Wakes with Thunder. This is part 2 in the Dragon Spirit duology. This one, I have a whole reading vlog dedicated to it. It's got some spoilers in it, so I will not endeavor to spoil it for you in this video. If you would like the spoilers, you can watch that vlog. As I said, is part 2. The story, the duology itself, is essentially the story of Mulan, the non-Disney version of Mulan, that is. From what I can gather from the author's notes, book 1 is basically the known story of the lady who inspired Mulan. Book 2 picks up where that lady's story ends, and this is purely of the author's interpretation of what might have happened next if it ended differently. That's what I am understanding. And so we have a lot of war going on in here. And I think I mentioned this in the vlog. In fact, I know I mentioned this in the vlog because it was a major thing for me. The first 50% of this book, this was like an over 400 page book. The first 50% of this book, our girl, Maylene, is traipsing around the palace talking about party dresses and baubles. And I'm like, bestie, there's a war afoot. She's basically like the face of the resistance. And she's like, but spring festival's coming up and I need to get my frock. And I'm like, it got a little like unnecessary. And so basically what I felt like this book in particular was completely unnecessary to the duology. You could have taken about 30 pages out of this book and added it to the first book, and it would have been complete as a standalone. In and of itself, the vibes on this book, I mean, it's just that like nothing happened in the first half of the book. We're just walking around the palace. The very, very end was so good. So it's hard for me. I mean, oh my God, what? Okay, it's hard for me to give a vibes rating, but that's literally what I'm doing here. So what would the rating be? I'm in between a 2 and a 3, and I can't decide. Does that make it 2.5? But I don't want to do half. We're gonna say it's a high 2. That doesn't make it any better, does it? And I have literally told you what the book is about without giving away the ending. There's nothing else that I can say. We traipsed around the palace. We talked about getting a frock for spring festival. And then we went off and we finished fighting the war. That's it. See what I mean? We didn't need 435 pages of that. But the book itself is very freaking adorable. Like the pages, the sprayed edges are cute. Okay. The pages feel really, really nice to like hold and flip through. And then the naked hardcover, well, the end pages are also pretty, but the naked hardcover is gorgeous. Listen, I'm a hard cookie to impress, apparently. I don't feel like I am, but it's seeming like I am now that I'm thinking through the books that I'm talking about today. Let's talk about a killer kind of romance, a love story to die for. This book is not something that I would typically read. However, I was gifted this for Valentine's Day. And for my book club that met in April, I had to read a book about a serial killer. And wouldn't you know, it's about a serial killer. So the main character, and somebody once was like, why do you always call them like the main character or the female main character, whatever? Bestie, it's because I don't remember anybody's name ever. Okay. I don't remember anybody's name in real life either. I meet so many people on a daily basis, especially for work, and I can remember your face. I can remember where I met you at. I can remember what you were doing. I remember like intimate details about your life. I do not know anybody's name. And that applies to the characters in the books that I'm reading too. I don't know their names. So it's the main character. Okay. So our female main character in here is a podcast host. Her podcast is about murder books, murder mystery books. And essentially what happens in this book is she puts out an episode where she's dissecting this murder mystery book that she read, and someone in her town gets murdered in the exact manner in which the murder in the book happens. All of a sudden, her childhood neighbor comes home. So she's still in her hometown, by the way. Her childhood neighbor comes home, and like they had a whole weird thing where she like confessed that he was her true love, and then like he left town instead of saying anything back to her. Very weird. And this is like 20 years later, right? So that's awkward. I was like, oh, I love you so much. And he's like, I gotta go. I'm never to be seen from again. Yikes. I don't know how you recover from that. Well, the truth is I don't think she really did. I'm so sorry to this lady. The truth is I don't think she really did recover from that. But so that's kind of like their background. But he lives next door. So when he comes home, he's there and she's like, oh, I don't think he knows who I am. Girl, you laid your heart bare for him and he skipped town. He knows who you are. Don't be daft. So he comes into town, the murder's happening, and then her next podcast episode comes out, and another murder happens in exactly the manner in which it is described in the book that she was reviewing on her podcast. So now we're off to the races, right? Things are a little bit weird. As the book develops, I told you this is a love story. It's a romance book. Of course, her and neighbor boy have to work through their situation, and I think it's worth reading the book to understand what happened between her confessing her love and him leaving town. Because I was like, what the hell? But I think it's worth reading the book to understand what happened there. And then also just to get the murder mystery. So this is like a really nice mashup of genres because you have murder mystery. It has book inception in it, and it has romance in it. There's also a cat who is pretty central to the story, and there's also some family intrigue that's happening. There's so many things that are happening in this book, but unlike some books where there's like a lot of things happening and I end up being like, there's just so much playing around happening, I didn't have that vibe from here. It all went together very, very well. So not my usual genre of books. I don't read romances too often. And when I do, I certainly don't like a fluffy romance. This was just left of a fluffy romance. Like if we would have removed like one or two chapters, it would have been totally a fluffy romance. I really don't read murder mystery books either. Like that's not really my jam. But this one wasn't gruesome. It was almost like a fluffy murder mystery. The focus wasn't on the murder mystery. It just was like happening in the background and driving the story forward. It just all really worked well together. And so I'll be honest with you, I never ever in my million years of book shopping would have picked this up off the shelf. But I am excited that this was gifted to me because this turned out to be like one of my favorite books of last month. Like I loved it so much. I am so glad that I did because I just had such a good time. Vibes on this, the vibes were 5. It was that vibey. Like, okay. So, don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, I still do. And for that reason, this book would have like gotten read in like 10 years after sitting on my shelf and turning yellow. And I would have been upset because then I would have not had such a good vibey time. So that's the lesson learned right there. I will say that there's a fair amount of family trauma in it. There's some LGBTQ rep in it, which the author addresses at the beginning of the book, divulging things about herself. Like I think there's a little bit of self-insert in here. And I also just really enjoyed the idea of the podcast. And I was like, I want a podcast. And then I was like, Sabrina, stop. You have a YouTube channel. Like, I mean, is that not a podcast? It's essentially a podcast. It's a little less structured than a podcast, but like, no, I don't. It's always nice when I read a book and then I start thinking, well, why not me? Like, can't I have that too? And that brings us to our last book, which is The Maker of Swans. Now, listen, I could not particularly tell you what this book is about. I'm going to do my best, but I'll just preface this by saying that the author also didn't tell us what this book is about, very intentionally. Everything in this book is extremely vague. It's a lot of hinting at what may or may not be happening here, who this person may or may not be, and there's really no, I'm going to tell you. Peric, I don't, the Irish names kill me. I don't know how to say this. Mr. O'Donnell is not about to tell you anything. He put a bunch of words in this book, and the language is very flowery. It's very purple. I mean, like, so I think I was thinking about this. I was telling someone about this, and I was like, there's a part where our guy goes down into the basement to get a bottle of wine. Going into the basement to get a bottle of wine and coming back up the stairs is a 6-page adventure. Nothing of importance happens while he's going to get the wine. There's nothing that happens. We just take 6 pages to describe the process of going to get the wine. Oddly enough, I was not bothered by that. I think in most cases I would be. I would usually be like, get to the effing point, okay? Not in this case. I was like, oh, that's interesting. You do have to be prepared for that. I do want to share, like, so in the back, on the back of the book, this is what it says. In the dead of the night, shots ring out over the grounds of a sprawling English estate. The world-weary butler, Eustace, recognizes the gunman, his longtime employer, Mr. Crow, and knows he must think and act quickly. Who's the man lying dead on the lawn? Who's the woman in his company? Can he clean up his master's mess like he always has before, or will this bring a new kind of reckoning? And you might think you know what the story's about from there. You do not. So Mr. Crow has some preternatural abilities to write stories, I think is what's happening. There's also a little girl who lives on the estate. We don't really know where she came from, or does she have magical powers, or does she not? People are getting gunned down in the streets. Like, it's a little bit wacky, but I loved every minute of it. And I still cannot tell you what happened in the story. It's kind of like a villain origin story. The maker of Swans, you get to there's a lot of, good Lord, is that called allegory? There's a lot of reference to swans, and I think their violent tendencies and the birth of swans and how that can also be extremely violent. And you can almost connect the dots to the overall story. But like I said, Mr. O'Donnell not going to give you anything. He's just going to hint and then leave you be. So it's almost like the whole thing is open to your own personal interpretation, which honestly, why not? Okay, why not? I too would love to sit down and pen a book where I don't really say anything, even though I say a whole lot of things, and then just let people guess what the hell I was talking about. That's kind of genius. Does he write all of his books like this? Like, I think I want to read another one of his books just to find out. Like, is that just all he does? So anyway, needless to say, the vibes on this one, I'm also going to give it a 5. Like, I don't know how to tell you how confused I am and how I almost think I have it, but I still don't really know. And I had such a good freaking time. Like, I don't even know how else I can describe this to you other than to say that that's what happened to me. I'll also say my husband bought me this book. This one he bought me on a whim. It wasn't for a special occasion. So this one he bought me for Valentine's Day. This one he bought me on a whim. He just saw it and thought, oh, Sabrina will like this. And listen, he was right. I don't know. I will say this. My husband is the person who picks the best gifts in the world. I don't know what it is that he's doing when he picks gifts. Like, it'll be Christmas time and we're buying gifts for the whole family, and he'll pick up like a mixing bowl. And he's like, oh, I think mom would really like this. And I'm like, that's the stupidest gift you could get somebody for Christmas. Mom cried tears of joy when she opened her mixing bowl. She was like, this is everything I ever wanted. It's so beautiful. And she doesn't let anybody else touch her mixing bowl. Like, that is hers. You don't touch it. You don't look at it. Don't even try to ask if you can use her mixing bowl. She cherishes this mixing bowl like it's made from Jesus's teeth. I don't understand. Well, I'm like, that's stupid. I would never buy anybody a mixing bowl for Christmas. When he picks out a gift for somebody, the worse I think it is as a gift, the more that person's going to absolutely love it. I'm actually good at gift giving too, but not like that. I am good at getting people the thing that they have asked for. He is really good at getting the thing that people didn't even know that they wanted, but it's absolutely perfect for them. So I guess that's what happened with these books. Because both of them got a 5 on the vibe scale, and I would not have picked up either one of these off the shelf. He did it again, y'all. I don't know how or why, but he did it again. Anyway, those are the books that I read recently. That's the ginger ale that I made from scratch, and she's delicious. I'm going to go have another cup of this as soon as I sluck down the rest of this. Sluck? Yeah. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Friday Night Lit. If you don't mind, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you've not done that already. And I will then just see you all in the very next video.